How do I not let go? Because what I no longer want to do is struggle, and I'm struggling here in these words
It's all right.
now.
It's all right. We sort of trapped you here because it's for the good of everyone.
But my whole focus is I no longer want to struggle. I'm giving up the struggle, path of least resistance.
Well, you know how you give up the struggle? You give up the struggle by never bringing up an unresolved desire again, by just bringing up the ones that are working. Abraham, I have this thing that I've wanted for a while and it isn't coming. What should I do? Leave it alone. Well, I know I should leave it alone, but I've got this thing. I've wanted it for such a long time. What should I do? How can I make it come to me? Just leave it alone. Are you sure I should leave it alone? Because it feels like I should be hard after it. Well, you should leave it alone because your vortex has got hold of it and your inner being has got hold of it and it's working on your behalf. It's been moved to the universe's side of the placemat. It's been moved to the universe's side of the placemat. So now you can let go of it. And if you keep putting it on your side of the placemat, then you're going to keep doing a crappy job of it instead of letting the universe do a divine job of it. Just trying to get your attention.
Oh, you got it loud and clear. I'm all yours. I'm all yours.
Well, we don't have anything else.
Yeah. Oh, man.
That's it. Trying too hard is a human tendency because you've been, bless your hearts, you've been working so hard with your action. You've been offering so much action to compensate for energy that you didn't quite get figured out, you see. And so just know that anything that feels like a struggle, leave it alone because you're getting nowhere with it. If you're struggling over it, you're making the struggle more. Leave it alone. If it feels like a struggle, it feels like a struggle for a reason. You're barking up the wrong tree. You're working on the wrong side of the placemat. You just got to let it go. You just got to let it go. You got to say things to yourself like, well, that's it for me on that for now. I'm not going to think about that because I'm not making any progress. I'm just going to let it go. I'm going to let the universe work on it. And I'm going to focus on the things that make me feel good and on the things that make me feel powerful. And I'm going to tune in as often as I can. And I do that often. And I'm just going to let the good times roll. And I'm just going to follow my bliss. And I'm just going to follow the feeling. And when I get an impulse about that, if I do, and I'm sure I will eventually, then I'll follow that impulse. And until then, I'm just going to follow the other impulses. Do you think you're good at following impulses?
That's exactly what leads me.
Do you meditate?
I try. I struggle.
So do you think that you get into the receptive mode?
I was yesterday. I couldn't tell the difference between my nose or my toes, and I didn't care.
So if you're in the receptive mode, if you believe that you've been in the receptive mode, and we know that you have been, so when an idea flows, seems like a good idea, yeah? Follow those ideas.
Yes, it does. And that's part of my dilemma, because one of the ideas of starting a particular business was initiated prior to being exposed to Abraham and yourself. And that is where I struggle, because I don't know what kind of receptive mode I was in at the time that I received that impulse.
Doesn't matter. None of that matters. Okay. None of that matters. When we were teasing with you in the beginning about how we wouldn't look back, you can if you want to, but we wouldn't look back. We don't look back because there is so much that is delicious to focus upon between where you are and where you are going. And so that's what has our undivided attention. And so anything prior to now is irrelevant because in this now, there are only two things that matter. What you're asking for, which is what you're summoning, and what you're doing in relationship to it. The more head-on you hit things, then the more you dig into where you are. The lighter you are about a subject, then the more you're called in the direction of what you want. So you just got to lighten up. Just be less self-aware. Be less self-condemning. Be less aware of dilemma. Be easier about it. Be more trusting that the universe has it. Be more trusting in what's going on in the vortex. Be more accepting of what's going on in the vortex. And meanwhile, just enjoy the quieting of your mind. We know you can't quiet your mind all day, every day, but if you're accomplishing that for a few minutes every day, then that's enough. And it just gets better and better and better and better. This conversation has been a really good one. You moved to a place you haven't been before. You now are more willing to put some separation between the asking for something and the watching out for it and the just letting it be. Separation, we're talking about give it a rest. We're talking about give it a rest. If you hear somebody that you love hammering away about a dilemma, 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 a dilemma. Say to them, I love you so much, but give it a rest. Give it a rest. Just give it a rest. Give it a rest. And then say, because source is on it. You've done the work. It's in the vortex. Law of attraction is after it. It's queued up for you. And when you're ready, which you will be when you give it a rest, when you're ready, which you will be when you give it a rest, when you're ready, when you have really given it a rest, you will be when you're no longer talking about it. You'll be ready when you've given it a rest. You'll receive an idea, and the idea will be so intoxicatingly beautiful that nothing would be able to keep you from moving in the direction of that idea. And until that happens, give it a rest.